Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Rachel Klein and I will be your presenter today. Today we are going to discuss creating labels in version 25.23.1. Labels has changed just a little bit in the new version 25, so I want to make sure I point that out to you. But overall functionality is the same it's been for years. All right, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go into membership. And the main thing to keep in mind with reports and with labels and even emailing if you're using that is that there's always a step 1 and a step 2. Step 1 is always going to be who do you need to see on the report. It has nothing to do with what information about those people actually prints. It's just the criteria of who we need to see. Okay, so you can get to labels right here in the middle, or you can go up to reports and export up at the top, reports and labels, and get to labels this way. Does not matter which way you access the screens, it's going to take you to the same place either way. Okay, so here's that step 1 screen, the who. Who do we need to get a label for? If I don't change anything on this screen and I simply come down here and click next, I am going to be able to get a label for every single person in my database, and that includes members and visitors. Okay, that might be what you want. If that's the case, then you don't need to change anything here. But let's say you might have some different type of criteria. Say you just want people that have a birthday within a particular month, or say you want just your people who have a certain status code or ELCA status or UMC membership status. Whatever it might be, that criteria can be all put in right here. Okay. Number 3, down here at the bottom, if you use the donations module, next to number 3, this is where you can add giving and pledging criteria. So if I click on this button, you can come in here. This is only if you use the donations module, but you can come in here and you can say, I just want people who have given, or I just want people who have given within a particular range, or I want my people who haven't given within a particular date range. You can also use this for pledging as well. So if you only want your pledgers, maybe you need to write thank you cards out to people who pledged for this year. You could choose only those who pledged. Maybe you need to get labels out to people who pledged, but over here to the right have not met all their pledges yet. So really take some time to kind of look through these screens because you can really get some very specific information or specific people pooled to do labels for. Okay. Again, it's up to you. You can come in here and play. If you have specific criteria that you're looking for, feel free to call us, shoot us an email to support@churchwindows.com, and we can help talk with you through how your database is set up and really try to figure out what would be the best option for you to get your data pulled out to get the people that you need. Okay, so this is if you need to add giving and pledging information. Back up here at the top next to the number 1, edit people selection. Again, this is where you go in and you pull those specific people that you need based on different criteria information that you track in membership. So up here at the top where it says select a membership field, you can query or pull specific information out of any of these fields in this list. Okay. Most commonly, I see people needing to pull labels for someone that has a status code of something specific. So if I choose status code in this list, I can tell the software I only want people who have one of these 4 status codes on their record in membership and people. Okay. Now, I can also tell it I want everyone who does not have this status code. So there is a not box here as well. So you can say, I want everybody who has something other than active, whether it's one of these or whether it's left blank as well. Okay. So you really have to be careful how you build your criteria to get who you want, okay? So let's say I want active, associate, and out-of-town member. Those three things I need to generate labels for, okay? I'm going to hit add to selection. That's going to input my criteria down here so I know this is what is going to be used when my labels are pooled. Over here to the right, you also have some additional information you can adjust if need be. I am going to go into categories and I am going to uncheck visitors. I just want my membership for this. I'm going to say OK. And as you can see, this box up here at the top has now shifted or changed to reflect the category or the information that I want. Okay. Accounts tab, I am going to skip this for now, but if you ever wanted to pool people who pledged or gave to a particular account, or maybe didn't pledge or didn't give to a particular account, you can select certain accounts and move them off to the right. If you're just worried about membership, skip right over the accounts tab. Sort tab. This sort tab is very, very important anytime, again, you're running a report in Church Windows. You want to make sure you stop at the sort tab and make sure you have your people organized in the proper order. Labels, if we do this option, last, first, alphabetical, labels are going to be strictly in alphabetical order. Now, you have a lot of other options in here as well. If you're doing a birthday report, you could sort by birthday if you wanted to. I'll show you that in a minute. If you want to do zip code, maybe you're doing some type of bulk mailing and the post office needs those envelopes in zip code order. You could come down to the bottom and choose zip code if you wanted to, okay? You can also use a subsort down here in sort field 2. So if sort field 1 is going to be zip code, and then you want to take everybody that's in that same zip code and sort them alphabetically, you could specify that down here in sort field 2 and sort field 3 and so on. Okay. Typically, you're just worried about the first field though. Okay. If you find you have a criteria that you run quite regularly, say this is a mailing you're going to do maybe 4 times a year, every month even, you can come down here to the bottom and save this selection. So in the future when you come in, you just select it here, hit next, and it's going to remember everything that you put in on the tabs above. So I could put the floppy disk. I'm going to call this membership mailing, and I'm going to say OK. And the next time I come in here, all I would have to do is select membership mailing, and it's going to fill in everything that I've already done. So I know exactly who I want and saves me a bunch of mouse clicks coming through up here. Okay. All right. So now I have my who. So I'm going to hit next. And step 2 is going to open. Step 2 is also very important because it allows me to specify what size label I need to print to, and then what information I need to see on the label itself, and as well, how many or what one label per do I want to use. And I'll explain that in a minute. First thing you want to do up here at the top, make sure you choose print to print out labels. The new feature on the screen is this export button. If you find you ever want to export out the information from your labels, you can choose the export feature here. I would say 99% of the time though, you're going to go with this print option. Okay. Next, you need to specify your layout. So if you hit the down arrow, you're going to have 2 templates down here at the bottom. Everyone will have this. An Avery 5160, this is the most commonly used address label that we see. It's going to be 3 across, so 3 labels across and 10 labels down, so 32 a page. This is, again, most commonly used one, so these templates are already here for you to use. You do not need to make anything else, but you can if you want to. Say you need to print name tag labels, or say you need to make a special label that includes a giver number on it. All that can be done by coming in here, and hitting the new button and following the wizard that pops up. So you will have to specify, if you hit the new button, specifically what label product you're using along with the product number. This gives Church Windows that template that it needs to be able to print to the proper size, so your labels, what's printed, fits correctly on the proper size label. Okay? So I want to explain the difference between these two templates. This is where it can get a little confusing for people. 5160 with mailing label. If we choose this layout here, that is going to print whatever the family's mailing label is and then their address. Okay, so the family mailing label you would have set up in People on the left-hand side right above their address field. This is the mailing label, okay? So it is typically your family's name. So that would be Miss Nina. That would be Bob and Sally Smith. That would be Mr. and Mrs. Mitchell Klein. However you have these mailing labels entered in for your family, that is what's going to print on the label itself. So for here, Bill and Donna, that label is going to print Mr. and Mrs. William Bell. Okay. Now, below that, you have 5160 with names. This is going to take the names of the individuals that meet the criteria and print their name, their specific individual name on the label. Okay, so if you want to see the family name, you're going to go with mailing label. If you want to see the individual's name, you would choose the names option. Okay, now with the layout, you also need to focus on what you're choosing for your one label per. Okay, so if we look in the list below, you can see we have Bill Bell and Donna Bell. They are both considered members and meet that criteria that we did. So their mailing label is going to say Mr. and Mrs. Donna Bell. And I have that option selected. Now, if I choose one label per individual, it's going to individually print Bill a label with the mailing label on it and Donna a label with the mailing label on it. Okay? But if I choose one label per family, it's only going to print one label and lump Bill and Donna together and print their family name across the top. Okay, so let me hit print and show you what that means. Ooh, let's zoom in. We're way far out here. So we just get one label for the Bell family, even though Donna and Bill meet the criteria. Okay, so that one label per is really, really important. All right, so typically if you are choosing the mailing label as your layout, you are going to go with a one label per family option. Now, if you want to see an individual label for every person that meets the criteria, so Bill needs his own label and Donna needs her own label, then you want to go with the Avery 5160 with names, and then we're going to do one label per individual. And then if I hit print for this, each person that meets the criteria is going to get their own label. See, here's Bill, here's Donna, with their individual names on it. Okay. Now you can sometimes need some other scenarios. So if I do the individual names one again, but I choose one label per family this time, it's going to print, instead of the mailing label, it's going to print a comma between each person that makes up that family. So Bill, comma, Donna, and then the last name. So this family down here has several people. It's going to list everybody out. Okay. Just depends on how you need to see the label. Now, if you're doing birthday labels, like I mentioned earlier, and everyone needs to get their own unique label with their own name on it, you would want to do an Avery 5160 with names and then a one label per individual. That way everyone will get their own label. Okay. Now, giving unit. This is only going to be used if you're doing a mailing involving giving. Okay, so in the donations module, you have the option to group people together with the individuals in their household, and they can give as one unit. Okay, so if you need to get labels out based on the different giving units within your families, then you would want to go with the one label per giving unit option. This is really helpful if you are doing a mailing that includes or a label that includes their giver number on it. You would want to do the one label per giving unit feature there. Okay. All right, let me show you one more thing here. I do want to go back into labels from the beginning, and I want to show you how to do a birthday mailing. So you can come up here up through the top and go to birthday and then go to labels if you want to, or you can come through the regular report. You can get the same information either way. The only difference is when you go in through birthday and then choose labels, it's automatically going to default to having birth date in this field for you. It's just going to save you a click. Anniversary does the same thing. All right, so we're going to do birthday is in month, and we're going to do March through March. I'm going to add this to the selection. You can specify if you want to include members or visitors. Again, it's up to you what your criteria is. Say OK. Up here at the top, you can see we have members and visitors. Birthday is in the month of March. I am not worried about anything involving giving, so I'm going to skip number 3 and I'm going to skip the accounts tab. And on the sort tab, I'm going to specify what order I want my labels in. Do I want them in birth date order and then alphabetical order, or do I just want them in alphabetical order or zip code? Again, up to you. Hit the next button. Step 2 is going to load. It looks like I have a handful of people who have a full birth date filled out in their membership people profile. From here, I'm going to make sure print is selected. Layout, I want to see these people's individual names print. So I'm going to choose my template for 5160 with name. And then I'm going to choose one label per individual. Now, off to the right, you are going to have some label options here. They are extremely self-explanatory. Feel free to read through those. The uppercase text for mailing, this can be a request by your post office. If you're printing labels, they want everything uppercase just for ease of reading. That's up to you if you check that or not. It does, capital letters take up more space. So you have to be cognizant of making sure that everyone's name and address fits on the label correctly. But that is an option there. Once everything is selected, you're going to hit print, and then you will get a label for everyone on that list, one per each person with their full name listed across the top, okay? One more thing I want to point out to you that can be helpful, like this mailing, for example, you're going to have an open label here and then 2 columns of open labels that you might want to reuse. You don't want a bunch of half sheets of labels. If that's the case and you want to use up some extra sheets of labels, you can do that by adjusting this start position field. So if I put this start position down to 10, for example, and I hit print, it should shift where those labels start to print. So this will print down at that first open sheet and then here and so forth. So just make sure you count down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and so forth to adjust your start position. Okay, but that's a really nice way to kind of go through and use up some extra sheets of labels that you might have laying around that are only partially done. Okay. All right, that is everything that I wanted to go over with you all today.